Hello, Jamie Butler.
Hello, Elisa Medus.
Hello, Erik Medhus.
He said, hello, mother.
How are you
He's
doing?
laughing.
How are you doing, sweetie? I love you.
Oh, he loves you too.
And
He's standing to the side today.
You're
He
gonna
says, don't miss me so much. I come to see you.
I know, and I feel your goosebumps, so that's awesome. So we're going to talk about a very cheerful subject, and that is suffering. You know, all of us suffer to some degree, right? I mean, that's the human experience. But, you know, why do we suffer?
Erik, why do we suffer?
Now, give us a lowdown.
He starts off by saying hello to everybody else, whoever is watching, and says, if you want to talk about suffering, then we need to talk about the contract that you signed when you came in to be human. Because in this third dimensional world, we have this, he's doing the air quote thing, concept of time, and we have this linear understanding of so many things, not just linear concept of time, but we have a linear concept of emotions. Like, to have joy, you have to understand suffering. To have abundance, you have to understand about having nothing. And he says everything has a white and black kind of perspective, this linear. One without the other, doesn't exist. How can you have one side of the coin, right?
That's true. And
makes sense.
And you couldn't have cause and effect, I did this and this caused that in my life. So that's very linear. And that's really probably important to the human experience, but you can tell me that.
No, he said it's so important. That's why we come here, because in our world, when you get out of this one, you don't have these linear concepts. You don't have to have both sides of the coin to make the coin. And he said it almost requires you to pretend a bit when you're in our space. And he goes, I mean, like, if you're human trying to understand where I am right now, you got to pretend that it's just that way, because you don't have what you would say, the proof, the tangible, for you to say that can absolutely happen and it's real. Because what you've based your existence on, and he says, I'm just saying you in general, not meaning anyone specific, is that when we were little, we were growing up, we were taught what was hot and what was cold and what was dangerous and what was not. And we were taught one way and another. And then we created this concept that one is acceptable, one is good, and one is not. So when we look at suffering, you say it like it is a travesty? A travesty? I thought he said tragedy and pronounced it wrong. My bad. And you look at it and you say, oh, I'm so sorry that you're suffering. Like, it's this negative experience. But in the act of suffering, you understand so many positive things about yourself, your own strength, your perseverance. You understand really what are your needs, because obviously they weren't what you thought they were, because here you are in the mode of suffering. You needed something, you didn't get it, therefore you fall into suffering. And he said it gets you to look at your emotional value as well. Do you like suffering? Some people, once they get into an emotion, they don't even get out of it, right, Mom?
I do not like it. No, I'm not having
like
any of it. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people that like to stay stuck in the victim mode.
Yes, victim mode. That's it. The suffering is a huge part of the victim mode.
Yeah, they get sympathy and things of that nature. What?
I'm working from my house today and I have my cats with me. So my cats are actually standing where Erik is standing.
Oh, really?
Like, a cat just walked around it. It's such a mess. I'd be so embarrassed to show everybody, but my cat climbed the piano and got up to where Erik is standing.
Oh,
Really
well,
funny.
I could carry the computer around and show you my god-awful mess throughout the house, but we cooked chicken fingers yesterday and they're still not all cleaned up. The deep fryer and all that stuff is horrible. But anyway, we digress. So
Sorry.
how could people learn how to I don't know if I want to say tolerate or enjoy or not
Oh,
suffer so much under suffering.
oh, he's so excited. He goes, Mom, use enjoy. How do you enjoy suffering?
Ugh. Okay, yeah.
He goes, even you roll your eyes.
I know. I just can't imagine.
He said it's true. But once you are in the act of suffering, right? That's so you're longing and you needed something that you're not getting, that's not fulfilled. And you stay in the moment in the true sense of now, not the bullshit of, oh, poor me in the past, they said that about me, or what if. He goes, because then you're throwing energy in directions that don't even exist.
Okay.
Okay, so you're truly in the now and you're looking at, why are you suffering? He goes, because if you do that, then you can enjoy the process of figuring out, what do you really need to be doing?
And you can reap the lessons from it, sort of search for the lesson in the suffering. Is that it?
He said you can search for the lesson. He goes, you wouldn't have to search very far. Because one thing I like about suffering, okay, that sounded really weird. I know, okay. One thing I like about suffering is that you're close to the bottom of the barrel. There's a lot of the thicket, all the things that could take you away from your focus, your life. A lot of it's already cleared out. And it's almost a very single focused experience,
That's true.
because you can only see yourself. You
Yeah.
can only look at you and what you don't have and what's going wrong so you're in a little vicious cycle, but it's all here. So it really clears out what is externally existing. That's what I enjoy about suffering. Takes a lot of the weeds out. What I don't enjoy is that people get stuck in the vicious cycle, or like you said, the victim pattern. And because we're survivors, we start to see the benefit of it and how we should stay in that, because we get special attention from people, or we're getting help where we feel lazy or we don't want to do it, or we're mislabeling people's help for love and not really being authentic with everything.
Or maybe
That's what I don't like.
maybe they just don't know how to get out of it. Maybe they want to, but they just don't know how.
Ooh, Eric's calling bullshit.
Oh, go ahead. Call my bullshit.
His mom, I feel that everybody knows their answer. It's just, are you willing to listen or not?
Oh, you have to listen to yourself. You have to be emotionally honest with yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it very firm? Yes.
Okay, give a specific example. What?
He goes, ding?
Ding,
Like,
ding.
are we done?
No, let's walk through a specific example of somebody's suffering. Let's say, well, we'll say somebody has terminal disease and they're going to leave two small children behind. That's suffering.
He says they have a what disease?
A terminal illness, like pancreatic cancer that's spread all over the place.
And the suffering part is what?
Well, knowing you're going to leave your children and suffering because it's painful and you feel like crap.
Okay, he said, so let's narrow it down. That you have a terminal disease, it's not going to be cured by medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the great fear of leaving your children.
Yeah.
He said the suffering part would be wanting to live beyond your extinction, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, well, I'm asking him to clarify what he's saying. He says if we're walking it through and I were in that position, so we're not looking at fighting the cancer, we're looking at not existing beyond the point of existence, being away from your kids.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, first of all, when you die, you're going to find out that's totally bogus. So you're going to be relieved. But we're looking at the human suffering, so that's before you even die. And he said, so you can look at ways of extending your life beyond where you are, writing letters to be delivered, sending flowers past years of your life, You can look at photographs and storytelling and logging it down. So these things all can mend the heart a little bit when it comes to knowing that you won't be around. But normally the suffering would be what you can't have. So let's say the father wouldn't be able to see his children get married or have children or things of that nature. Of course, this suffering is going to be short-lived because, like I said before, as soon as he dies,
Yeah.
it's all gone. But during the living part, he says the true part of it wouldn't be about not being there for his children. It would be more about not being able to be in control. So you wouldn't be in control of your life or your existence. So it's more about suffering because you can't surrender. He says, what was the point of this again?
Well, what about the children, watching your children suffer? They know that you're going to pass on, and it would be heartbreaking to see them suffer like that.
But Mom, that would fall under compassion. That wouldn't be under suffering. Because if you're feeling what they're feeling, you're connecting in some kind of compassionate way or empathetic way, because you can't be in control of what they're feeling.
Well, if it's empathy, though, you're suffering if they're suffering.
No, that's kind of... He goes, no, that's kind of bogus.
Okay.
So is all suffering bogus then, as you say? I can't believe you use that word.
I know.
Is
The
all
80s
of
called,
it...
they want their word back. Jeez.
That's awesome. Busted. That was good. Well, he said in getting to the root cause of suffering, it is all self-created.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a true experience. It's because you've only looked at you and stay in a vicious cycle that you can't see the opportunity of how to get out of it. That it's serving you somehow. So let's say if you're suffering because your children are suffering, or you're suffering because you're dying and you won't live beyond, and the children see you're suffering, that they give you special attention, and that it all feels good, and we're all wallowing in it together. So it's giving some kind of support, camaraderie, we're all on the same page, having the same emotions. He says, you got to decide, is that really what you need? Or are you really needing something different, but you just don't even know how to ask for it? Ooh.
Sorry about that. We're having Yorkie problems. She's crawling on the computer, minimizing my screens and all sorts. Stay, Bella. Stay. Lay down. Okay. All right. Well, let's use one more example, and then we'll go on.
Okay.
Do you want to think of an example, Erik, Jamie?
He said suffering. He goes, let's take love. Let's say you fall in love with someone and she falls in love with someone else, marries him, and she's gone, and there you are left to suffer in knowing she was your soulmate, but you could no longer have her. Mm-hmm. Or let's say you fall in love with her and then she dies. And you don't get to marry her or be with her, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really happy, Erik. He goes, this is a really happy
wah,
scene.
wah, wah.
He says, but this does happen. And so people have that unfinished, disconnect, this suffering that is no longer there anymore. And he said, so it keeps them looking at themselves and what they could have done, what they could have said, the world of coulda, woulda, shoulda, and it doesn't help you stay in the present. It helps you stay in the past and dream about what it could have been, right? So you're throwing your energy into places that don't really exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we were talking about letting go of the suffering, it would be about staying in the present and recognizing that you were your best version in that moment, and that you did what you could, and that is your story, and that you cherish the moments that you did have with her. But he says, what could suffering provide you is that you see that the value of life, or the value of each moment, is extremely important, that if you were to miss one moment, what kind of life is it to set off for you? You know, you missed that moment by the car where you should have said, don't go, I love you, stay. And you sent her away, and that was the car crash or whatever. He said, so you could use that as a catapult. It would definitely take you out of the suffering moment, because then every action that you did beyond that suffering would honor that love that you had, would honor that life, would honor any other kind of situation that you're doing, because you changed how you behaved from it.
Okay. Was that it?
Yeah, he's pretending to play a violin.
I know, really. So, Erik, one more question, or kind of two questions. You suffered a lot when you were here. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed the solitude of it.
I could see that.
Because there were no other humans, no other opinions to tell me how it should be, what I should be doing, and what I did wrong. So falling into the quietness was quite comfortable. That was the joy that I got from it. But it was quite confusing with the disease, with being bipolar, on what part of me decide on. What part of me to side on? Did that make sense?
I guess. After a couple more sips of coffee, when I listen to it again, it probably will. But do you miss it? Do you miss suffering? And do you create it for yourself, or do you pretend to create some sort of contrast?
No, I don't really long for the suffering part anymore. When I need to be challenged or to look at myself differently, it's presented directly at me. It doesn't come through a lack of experience or a hardship or a challenge.
Okay.
He says that's just not the way it is over here. I know that's hard to comprehend because we're used to having the hardship to get to the joy. But here, if we're learning to expand or remembering to grow, whatever, that it shows up for us. It comes to us. It collects to us. Think of magnets, and it builds from there.
Okay. God, this Yorkie is driving me crazy. We're having Yorkie issues today, guys. Okay, well, that
He
sounds
said
good.
it's like bad weather.
My God, dang it. All
He
right.
liked Super Yorkie before, where it
Yeah,
kind of
so
just
it's flying
flew
Yorkie
over the camera.
Anyway, all right. Well, thank you so much, Erik. Thank you, Jamie.
You are welcome.
That was awesome. Really, really cohesive, and it totally made sense. Thank you. You guys?
Erik.
Yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to have all sorts of information to follow on after the YouTube. So you guys take note. I'll give you Jamie's information, the Channeling Erik information, and so on. And be sure you listen if you want to listen to it again. I guess it's too late. Listen
Erik
to
is
see if you
chanting.
can hear his voice, because sometimes you'll hear his recording. So you might want to listen to it again.
That's true. And Erik is chanting, the book is coming, the book is coming,
I know.
the book is coming.
September 1st. It's going to be awesome, guys.
Yay!
All right. Bye, people.
Take care.
Bye.
Erik says bye.